Okay, before the break, we started looking at materials. There's lots of options there. Uh, the best way to learn about the options on the material is just go through and change them just one at a time or a couple at a time because some of them go together. And obviously, YouTube is full of resources and stuff, but just kind of go through, check out what's there. And we talked a little bit about normal math, where we have a flat surface and the normal direction is whatever is straight out from that. So we can manipulate that in different ways. We look at image texture uh, and make it a flat surface seem like it's not flat based off how the light reflects on it. Or right at the end, we looked at displacement um, and um, actually adjusted a little so that it is no longer a flat surface. That's one of the first and um, one of the major steps to getting photorealism because if we want things to look realistic, there's not perfectly flat surfaces in the real world. There's always going to be some imperfections in them. So we would need to work that in to different degrees, and the displacement works really well for that. So we made this little axe. While we're talking about it, though, there's also some ways that we can save a lot of time. Save the axe and close that. We can save a lot of time with our model using something similar with displacement and maybe noise. We'll talk more detail about what noise is. I guess that's on Wednesday is when we're going to talk about noise and discuss the history of it and at least a couple of our basic ones. There's quite a few of them, but random. If we did just randomness, that's like white noise, right? Like the old TVs, where it's just the static of white and pixels are flashing black and white off and on. Or when your HDMI cable starts to go out, you'll probably see all the pixels on your screen start to flash randomly. There's no patterns to it. It's not really something we can use. So noise is when we take that random. So we start with that random stuff and come up with different ways to smooth it out into more natural shapes. We'll talk about that more on Wednesday, but I want to mention it because we're going to use it here. So if we're going to like a stone wall, or think maybe like a little cabin in the woods, maybe a stone foundation, just have we'd it would take forever to draw every single stone individually, add in all those vertices and stuff we need. So we can use that displacement idea and along with normal maps and noise texturing to kind of accelerate the process and help us out with that. So I'm just going to create a cube here and let's think of a fence thing. So, or like a wall. So I'll make it really narrow, narrowing the X direction and really long in the Y and maybe a little bit taller. So it's something like a stone wall. I guess it doesn't have to be that long in the Y. And yeah, could cut archways and stuff out of it, make it look nice to begin with. Well, to make this look like a natural stone wall, we can use a model. There's the little wrench looking tool once that's selected. And add in under deform, I think. I think I want to surface deform. Oh no, that's not it. It's gonna modify them all at once. And just make this clear. You can see there's lots and lots of these that we have to work with. Oh, displacement, that's what I want. So choose a displacement modifier under deform and displacement, and this is sort of like that thing we just did. We can use a texture to modify this. So I'm going to click on a new texture. Um, I'll call it Crux. That way I can find it, because now I need to go down to the textures tab, the one that looks like a checkerboard down at the bottom. If we go in there, okay, good, it's loaded in. We might have to look through all our different textures. But since we were just using that, it looked like it loaded in already. And we can create some different noise settings for it. Right now it's an image or movie, so it's expecting us to load up regular image or movie files, depending on whether it's static or dynamic. There's some different options. Voronoi or Musgrave, we're going to talk about where these come from on Wednesday. I'll go with Musgrave. And notice how it's not quite a random texture. It looks like we started to get sort of a cell structure. And again, we'll talk about where that comes from on Wednesday. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to switch that to the noise basis to like F2, F1. And notice how well structured that became. And it started to inform my thing a little bit. So not quite as much as we would like. I'm not seeing all of these shapes. I think I will maybe add another one. Come through and add another modifier. Actually, instead of doing it with the modifier, I'm gonna come in edit mode. And if you right click on it, we can subdivide and get a whole lot more images or a whole lot more little faces in it. So I'll right click and hit subdivide, and then the little menu down at the bottom left, do a whole bunch of subdivisions. So like 20, maybe more than that. 30. So now we have all these little bitty faces, lots and lots of faces to work with. Go back to alphabet mode. And okay, now that we have all these things, you see what that noise is doing to that. It's started manipulating it, and you come in here, change some of these settings with like the size and stuff. And under modify, we can change how much it's impacting it. There's set the edges now, that surface starts to look a lot more like what we would see, I think maybe a castle wall would look like or something. We can change which coordinate system it's applying to. Do we use local or global coordinates? Or we'll go to a different object. So object isn't ourself, we would just refer to another object in our scene. I'll go with local coordinates. If I set it all up to only manipulate in the X, turn the strength up a little bit. See, now it's starting to get the more of the texture like we would expect in a wall. Turn mid-level up or down. And you play around with that, play around with different things. And notice how quickly that got a generic shape. Some of the other ones do. So Y seems to be what's stretching it out. If we go back to that texture, we can make some changes here, like the size of them. We'll make our cells a little bit bigger. It's going to look more and more like sort of a stacked stone wall. You can just try and change, making little changes, see what happens. Octaves. But it gives us a good way to quickly manipulate our models into something more like the shape we want. But when we're taking all the time to go through and basically draw everyone in that wall, and it looks a lot more natural. That's kind of what it's getting into. So you can try a few things. I'll be doing add a cute, another cube in here. Move it here and I'll stretch it and Z. S to scale and then Z, so it only scales in Z direction. Good habit to only, good form to only do them once. And when you're finished with that modifier, you can hit apply. Depending on your screen size, you might see another button here that says apply. You're clicking that will finalize it. But while we're working with Godot, they're fully integrated. So if we put that modifier there and drive our model into Godot, but then it's still better form to go ahead and apply it. And now that's the actual shape. So that looks like a lot more like a stone wall. Maybe I should put a material on there so that we're not seeing that face calling. Chimney, that might be a good example for kind of like a chimney. So maybe it's like greenish tint everywhere. And but it gives us a quick way to get some natural shapes. I'll do something different on this other one. So like a new one. Whoops, material. Bring that meant to go to the modifiers and a new modifier. Under deform, we want to displace things. And first off, we're going to need some places to work with. So look for that modifier again. They just move all the buttons on these in the leads version blender, and I'm still haven't figured out some vision service. So instead of going in and hitting something, finding something, there's also a modifier. It's a little bit more dynamic. Then we'll start subdividing the surface. And we just put a couple layers, choose a small number here, but this one's going to be a little bit more dynamic. Notice that when I clicked it this way, it applied some of that and tried to smooth everything out. So it's creating those subdivisions. We don't have them yet, but it's going to dynamically create the subdivisions as we need to apply the thing. So we apply the one first, and then go in and do the deform displacement, create a new texture. I'm see if I can do something like log cabin like looking. So again, down to the checkerboard where the textures are, and instead of an image, switch to something that has more straight lines. Maybe not more. Yeah, too straight. Again, I'm gonna switch this to F2 to F1. Um, we'll see what a little bit about what that means in a couple days. Make the size a lot bigger. Like that. Make little adjustments until we get uh, a completely different surface area. I was gonna try to go for something that was more like horizontal. I did these two things recently to make log cabins for a game, bunch of log cabins. So I used the noise. I can't remember which noise I made. It might be a noise that I created because it's really fun to code those noise things. Uh, but it had different sizes going along, so that just a square quickly turned into a log cabin looking thing, and then used something like the rocks to make the chimney. Looks like that's collapsing on the side, but go back here and then we can make little adjustments. Like how much does it apply? And it looks like it's going in every direction. Probably don't need it going in every direction. Custom normal, or we can just use the RGB values. Oh, that made a neat little texture. But try different things like this. See what kind of works out. Okay, I'll do the X again. That seems to smooth it out, and we still have mostly a square thing, like blocks that we stack together. Um, I'm gonna call it marble. That looks like, looking at it now with no color, that's what I'm thinking of, like old marble columns on ruins in Greece or something. It kind of looks like that. We don't have to go in and modify every single one. Play around with those things to make it uh, increase the strength. Obviously, how much is happening. Um, and mid level is what you can see. The whole thing either swells or compresses, swells or shrinks. That's a very useful tool for doing this as well. Uh, I don't save this one, but I will go and save it as displacements, just in case we need to refer back to it. Or something that's even easier to get something really nice going quickly is using different plugins we have. So if we want most of our games, we probably need some sort of landscape. So if we go to edit and under preferences, there's a bunch of plugins we can turn on or under add-ons. So edit and then preferences and come to the add-ons tab. And if you search for landscape, I'm gonna have to look for that later. After downloaded it. Oh, allow online access. So go to get extensions and allow online access. And we should have a landscape one to search for. Why is it not searching? They made a bunch of changes in the most recent add-ons. Um, extensions blender.org. Okay, there we go. So you have to go get extensions, add-ons, and under repositories. Oh, make sure this says the repositories is pointing at blender.org. And then from the little drop-down arrow, make sure you hit refresh. I noticed somewhere a message that said it would refresh when it uh, on startup. So now that it's looking at that, if we search for landscape, you should see this one right down here. ANT landscape. You can visit the website and get information about it. So it generates landscapes for us. The name kind of says it all. And then when you install that, you'll get a button where we can just insert a parameterized landscape. So now it should be over here. Make sure that box is checked so that it's enabled. And now we're going to add under mesh, we have a button for adding a landscape. By default, they're really small, so we'll need to scale them up afterwards. You can see it goes 2 meters in each direction by default, but something with some mountains. And down here in the box on the left, this is a parameterized thing. So you want to go to the box first and adjust all of the parameters. So like how is it split up? We can change the number of divisions, kind of smooth it out, make it rougher, make it larger. I guess there is a scale value, but I'll just use the scale after we do the parameters. The offset, so you can change where that noise is. Choose like a different shape for your mountains. Kind of roll it back and forth. Find a one you like. Yeah, you can see what they're doing as we adjust these parameters. It's adjusting that noise, making up the landscape. There are some presets up at the top. So like some sort of canyon space or one single canyon. And again, then you can go through and adjust parameters. Some lakes, different mountains, uh, like ridges. And this is what we use on Wednesday. We'll kind of use the river thing, but for us right now, once you get the parameters set and what you're happy with, you'll select them. Notice we have 2 things here that might help with them. So that's the ground, and then this one's the water. I'll switch to material view and add in some appropriate materials. So with water selected, once this catches up, choose some sort of nice blue color for your water. Then on the land, something nice greenish, dark green. And some things set up display placements and modifiers. But this is what we'll use this when we'll get over there to on Wednesday to look at shaders. And we'll also use this when we get back to when we do VR stuff in module 7. Oh yeah, that's activity. So you have a session. Next week is the 3D modeling animation, 3D animation assignment. And what it's gonna be is, make a model of a canoe and some oars. And then you'll do an animation of just the oars rowing. You don't have to put a character in there, so I might think of like the Invisible Man sitting in a canoe rowing the oars. Just go over the basics on that. And then we will use that along with the thing we do for shaders tomorrow when we get to VR stuff in module 7, because last year ran out of time and we weren't able to go through the game and load it on VR thing. So things were broken up and worked in along the whole semester so that we'll have to do that. Anybody close to selling for I do have 10 VR headsets here. Um, they're pretty popular. So we'll go through the steps on anybody that's on campus that day will be able to actually load it in and see it. And then once we get that set, right, it's a 2 meter by 2 meter space, so it's really small. So for right, the thing we're gonna do at the end where we're making a VR game that's where we're laying a canoe down a river, we probably want that like at least a kilometer long. So stretch it out by like 500. 2 meters multiplied by 500 in every dimension. And then we have basically a kilometer in each direction. Which that's a little bit too big to see, so it's coming off. Let me 250. There we go. Can at least see the whole thing at one snap. So 2 times 250, that gives us a half a kilometer in each direction. And we need to do the same thing for the water. It seems odd to scale up a plane. Well, the X and Y direction makes sense. But it's not sitting flat at the bottom, so we need to bring it up, scale up the Z as well to get it back to the spot. And then once we have that, we can hit Control A and reset that to our new transform. Same thing on the ground, select that, Control A, and make that the new 1%. And I zoomed past it. Means it gives us a quick way to get a landscape for a 3D game. I get that button. I guess also on Wednesday, I was wanting to try to look at it today. Another one you might want to turn on is trees. Yeah, we'll look at that. So turn on that landscape plugin, and under preferences, or get extensions, search for sapling. This is a tree generator. So instead of drawing the tree, we can just generate the trees. And then in the game engine, we can use a multi-mesh instance to turn like one tree into an entire forest without overloading our add-ons. So it should be on there now. Yep. And the box is checked. So close that. Yeah, I'll get rid of all this. Get rid of that, and we're gonna do that on Wednesday. So now we're gonna add, and this one's under curve because it doesn't. We'll see this on Wednesday. But when we click that and make sure you're seeing the box here, we have a tree that is all parameterized. And as soon as you click somewhere else with these parameter things, we can no longer get back to those parameters and adjust them. We're going to the scripting tab and grab the last command ran. Well, last command ran was delete, but going right before delete, it's just this code. So you can manipulate the Python code and kind of do it, and then, but go to add, curve, and a tree. You want to expand the little black box and set all your parameters before you get to it. So we have to scroll down. The presets are on the bottom on this one. One of the things with open source software, different people made it, and they put things in different places. But maybe we want a pro tree, which starts off really, really big, or a oak tree, and it should kind of follow suit. And see as we change values, so branch distribution, how the branch is distributed, how many rings are in the branches, like how spread out are they? The random seed is what the number that starts our random generator. So you can kind of set that to something. And on the geometry tab, we have lots of control, much more control of the radius, how does it split, different ways of pruning them. Probably at least want to do the geometry and the leaves. We show leaves. You see they're kind of showing there, but it looks small. Like there's not very many, so it's like very early spring. So we can turn that up so we get a lot more. Change the angle they're showing at. Maybe the size of them. Maybe that would make a difference. Because that's going to be a lot of leaves there. I'll turn it back down. They're just kind of at the end. That's getting a bit bigger. Oops, not that big. I'll make a number because that scale moves very, very quickly. Yeah, then kind of cover it out like a tree. The one thing to watch out for after you're done, just click over here to accept all of those parameters. If you look at our icons, notice that it has the icon for a curve, not for a mesh. The leaves are meshes, so we can go ahead and put colors on them and stuff. But this is just a curve, so we're just processing it as a straight line there, and it's generating a preview of what it would be as a mesh. So after you generate the tree, you can click on that, select it there, and under object is the convert option down near the bottom, and we can convert that to a mesh. So now we can see from our icons over here, it is an actual mesh, so we can apply our materials or go in and edit it or anything like that, like we're used to. We will see more of those on Wednesday. And then we'll use that river scene to see shaders where we take our materials and make them dynamic. That really adds a lot to the design of the game when the materials change with time. So a lot of information there. I'm going to make a note here, but we did not get through that part that was on the thing for today. Because I figured some people might want to talk to your groups, right? The first group project is due this evening. How are those coming? Doing well. Has it been a struggle? People panicking about it. Well, I'm going to talk to your groups. So there was a request, or a suggestion, just the feedback, right? Going with that Ivy Online shell that I'm developing, we're kind of looking at. Somebody suggested that 3 weeks for the group work would be a lot better. Which made sense. Then there's a week to get to know your group, and then you have 2 weeks to do the work. Our next group project, so the Build Your Chain is weeks, this week and next week, so 5 and 6. The next group project is actually week 7 and 8, but taking that feedback as a suggestion, I did go ahead and fill up the groups for the next project. So after you finish this first group project, if you want to, the groups for the next project are already together. You can peek ahead at module 7 to see what the assignment is, but basically you're gonna do a unique game. There's going to be not a structure to follow, but a similar thing. You'll do a couple cut scenes and one playable level, and write your own unique story. And you choose the format, whether you want it to be 3D something or 2D platformer or overhead map. So uh, think about a classic game and maybe copy the map like we did on those first two projects, where we used the map from an existing game to give us some structure to tell a different story. Think about a different game you could use that you could maybe set up that way. But that will be up to you, and the groups are already together. So if you want to go ahead and reach out and start communicating with your group members for that next one, that'll give you basically 4 weeks to work on that project, and it might not feel so rushed that way. Other group project to tonight, so I have a feeling that y'all might want to communicate with your group mates a little. So I'll open up breakout rooms. Before I do that, does anybody have any questions on stuff from today? It's a lot with materials, right? It's a lot to take in. Just remember where this recording's at. Come back, double check things, but really, you're going to want to spend some time just randomly clicking around through all the options on materials. And after Wednesday on chairs, and start to see what each one does before you really can dive in and control it exactly the way you want to do. I probably made it look very, very easy, but I've been doing this for a long time. First time I saw 3D modeling was right after the first Jurassic Park movie came out. It took a long, long time on a home computer back then to render down. But I was fascinated. I want to go do that. So I learned how to do that, and I really enjoyed it. And we've done that regularly for years and years and years. And on one of my degrees, the engineering technologies degree, technologist degree, I have a lot of formal training in CAD and 3D modeling and stuff. So might have made it look easy, but it takes a while. Start with just kind of clicking around and randomly doing stuff, see what each one does, then think about the color it needs to be, how does it reflect light, the normal map, so that you can control the reflection of light to make it look a little less smooth than those displacements like this. So something you want to start messing around with, get a little bit of practice with, and get somewhat familiar with. And on Wednesday, we'll look at shaders where we do it in code to do it so that we can make it dynamic. And we're stuck with the shape we started with. So I'm going to stop the recording, and we'll split up into breakout rooms to talk to your group members.